Do we think he did not intend to die then when that guy who was next to homeless, I mean, that guy seemed, not like a sophisticated character, when he got him to, quote, shoot him, but it just grazed his head. Yeah. That was always so confusing to me. Like, was this some sort of a sharpshooter? How did the guy manage to actually barely connect with him to the point where it looked like he actually had been shot at, but not so much that he actually killed him?
Yeah. No, there are many theories about what happened actually at the side of the road, but the man you're talking about, Curtis Eddie Smith, will tell you. And he said it. He's like, if I'd shot him, he'd have been dead. So what he believes happened is there was a struggle over the gun. And he has said he thinks that Alec was trying to frame him, that they were struggling over the gun, and maybe Alec was Alec was bigger. Alec is 6'4", 200 pounds. I mean, can he overpower this? And Curtis Eddie Smith is his cousin Eddie, is a smaller guy. He's been out on disability for a number of years. Alec was his disability lawyer. And then frame him. And you remember when Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, Alec's lawyers, they said in court filings, they're like, the real killer is Eddie Smith. He was the one who killed Maggie and Paul. And so one of the theories is that Alec may have been trying to kill Eddie and then say, see, he was coming after me to kill me the same way that he killed my wife and son. And it's strange. I don't know if you remember, but Eddie was cashing a lot of checks for Alec over a number of years. And the checks accelerated that summer, that hundreds of thousands of dollars that Alec was effectively paying Eddie in a way. So was he going to say he was blackmailing me? Look at these payments. There are multiple ways to look at what actually happened there. But one of them is that if you look at the photos, and the defense released the photos, they signed a HIPAA release and released all the photos. There are people locally that say, that's not a cut in his head. He fell, and that's the gravel on the side of the road that caused him to be cut. But one thing I should add about Cousin Eddie is that he's actually a cousin. I could not believe it. But if you go back more than 100 years to the Civil War, Alec's great-great-grandfather, so Randolph Sr.'s father, was an officer in the Southern Army, and so was Eddie's great-great-grandfather, and they were brothers.
Wow.
His great-great-grandfather was named Lazarus Murdaugh. He was what they call a fire eater, so he was an especially virulent he was anti-union. He made these incredible speeches that got picked up by national media and actually were read by Abraham Lincoln. So Eddie he says he's like, I'm half Murdaugh, and he's right. He's part Murdaugh. Yeah.
Do we know, Valerie, do we ever figure out, and by the way, just for the audience, I'm talking today to Valerie Bauerlein. She wrote the book, The Devil at His Elbow, Alex Murdaugh and the Fall of a Southern Dynasty. Do we know where all the money went? This is one of the mysteries, right? It just seemed like Alec was taking in so much money via fraud from the law firm, the clients, and so on.
Yeah.
And where did it go? Like, it seemed like he claimed he just spent it on drugs, but the conclusion by many was always, how many drugs could he possibly have taken? He took in more than he could ever have spent, was the layperson conclusion on the funding.
No, and I think one of the key voices in the book is Blanca Simpson, who was the housekeeper at Moselle for many years, and I think the evidence establishes that Alec was using drugs, but I think there's no evidence that he was using the amount of drugs and opioids in particular that he says he was. And I had the benefit of 10 years of spending. I could see through some federal exhibits, I could see what he and Maggie spent over the course of 10 years, down to like when they would go to the Honey Baked Ham store at Thanksgiving. You could see what that expenditure was. And what was so shocking about it, and I think we probably know people like this in our own lives, is as soon as money came in the door, it went out. He was overdrawn tens of thousands of dollars multiple times in a year. Maggie would have to call him and say, can you call the bank? I'm at the grocery store. I need to be able to cash this check. I need to be able to pay for my groceries.
What was he spending it on?
It's extraordinary. It was, they would take a private plane to a USC bowl game instead of flying first class, or, Blanca told me, and there's farm equipment out on Moselle, which is 1,700 acres, a huge, huge property, twice the size of Central Park. And rather than fix, a big piece of heavy equipment, they would just put gallons of oil in it every day. So he was spending hundreds of dollars on oil. It was just, it's hard to even understand where the money was going. But there is missing money, millions of dollars, the feds say, that's still missing. So he spent a lot of it. He spent some of it on drugs. I think I do subscribe to the idea that he buried some of it at Moselle in PVC pipes. I've talked with people who've been there when those pipes had been dug up. But that you can't, cash is tough. It's tough to bury, millions of dollars in dirt over time. There is a theory, and I think the feds have been pursuing it, that some of the money is offshore. And was he going to run that summer is one of the ideas. But there's the feds say about $6 million that's still missing. So
that makes more sense that we've got millions missing than that he spent it all on the drugs. For those of us holding our breath for the past several months as we came up to this election, we can finally exhale. Work can at last be done on the major issues this country's facing, one of the most significant being our national debt. The fact is, we're broke, and that debt is a house of cards for our nation that cannot be quickly dismantled. So the strategy remains the same. You might want to diversify your savings. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control, out of our president's control. So it can be important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. And the best news is it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Text MK to 989898 to get your free info kit. Plus, right now, you will receive a free 1-ounce silver eagle coin for every $5,000 purchased. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.